Welcome once again to Ballin with Roy and Edwyn. I am Roy S. Johnson, and this is my son, Edwyn. How you doing today, Edwyn?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for joining us for our intergenerational talk about sports and life and how they intersect. Now, you may notice I'm in a little bit of a different venue today. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma, my hometown. I'm also rocking the Oklahoma Sooner Red. This was the team that I grew up watching. So this is my roots today, back in Oklahoma, Oklahoma Sooners, Boomer Sooner. And so that's what you noticed today. So I just want to let you guys know what's going on. I'm also here doing this because when I traveled yesterday, they lost my luggage. So real life happens. Real life happens. So let's get right into it. We had some breaking news last night. We had some opportunity. We had our lineup all set, and then we had breaking news. First of all, we found out that St. Peter's coach, the coach of the Cinderella St. Peter's team in March Madness, signed a new 6-year contract to become the head coach at Seton Hall in the Big East. This was his alma mater. This is a place where he was a star point guard. And no one is really surprised about this. There were rumors about it throughout the number 15 seed's magical run, going further than any 15 seed ever in the history of March Madness. I feel good for him, Edwin. I feel good that he's getting this opportunity to get paid, but really an opportunity to now coach greater talent, recruit greater talent. The pressure is on, but this is what coaches strive for.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a bigger conference, bigger school, more money. And like you said, I mean, it's his alma mater. He went there. So I'm just, that's a great opportunity for him. And he is a good coach. He's shown that he is a good coach,
Oh, yeah, there's no question about that. He was able to coach a bunch of guys who probably weren't recruited at a lot of schools like Seton Hall and take them to this great platform that they were able to do this year, this great achievement. So good news for Shaquem Holloway. And then we also had good news coming out of the NFL. Bruce Arians, the coach of the Tampa Bay Bucks, decided to move into the front office, and the team has already named Todd Bowles as the new head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Todd Bowles, an African-American who had coached before at the New York Jets, really hadn't been given much of an opportunity after being fired from there. Came over as the defensive coordinator under Bruce Arians. Clearly had been groomed for this. Bruce was saying that he's been looking at him as the head coach all along. I was a little surprised it happened at this juncture. And when you said you were not.
No, I wasn't surprised because when you're talking about the minority rules that just got put into place now in the NFL, and then two, if you look at them for the past 2 years on the sideline, they were going hand in hand. They were right next to each other, so he learned a lot from Bruce Arians. And I think that's what he wanted. He always wanted him to be a successor at that too. So just again, to see, it's great that another black coach or, coordinator, etc., gets this opportunity, of course. But it wasn't a surprise for me because, again, if you see them two on the sideline, they really do have such a great relationship that I felt like it was perfect. It had to happen.
That's great. And what's good for me is that as this thing evolves, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the new Mooney rules a little bit later in the show. What's good for me is that we don't often get the opportunities with good teams. When black coaches were hired, it was usually for bad teams where there was almost no opportunity for success. So this is a good team. Tampa Bay is a solid team, and they've got Tom Brady now coming back. So not only is this great that he's getting the opportunity, but he's getting the opportunity with a good team, which I think is also part of that evolution, and we'll talk about that later. So, of course, now the big story at this juncture is the Final Four. We finally got there. And starting out on the women's side, I mean, we've got really blue blood teams everywhere. On the women's side, you got three number one seeds. So you got the best of the whole crop that came through. You got 3 number one seeds and then a number 2 seed in UConn. What's interesting about this, and you look at the seeds, and obviously, I'm going to root for my Stanford Cardinal, one of the number one seeds, and one of the teams that people think have an opportunity to do something that only 2 teams have done, and that is win back-to-back national titles. Only, the 2 teams that have done that?
No, I don't.
You don't? Okay, it's UConn and Tennessee. So you probably could have guessed those. Those are obviously the 2 best women's programs in the history of the sport, but only UConn and Tennessee have won back-to-back titles. So we're going to have a great Final Four there. What's interesting is that I read this stat last night that 7 of the last 10 champions have been top 15 in scoring defense. Defense wins championships. People think it's a cliche, but it's the truth. And this year, of the 4 teams in the Final Four, only 2 of them fit into that top 15. South Carolina was number 3 in scoring defense, and UConn was number 14. I know UConn is your favorite school, one of your favorite schools. You always root for them. So this should be a pretty good Final Four, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be a really good one. I'm definitely going to watch. I look forward to it. Of course, I'm going for Connecticut. Like you said, that's my favorite team, so I'm going with them. I do like South Carolina. I like them a lot. I like the energy that they bring. I love their coach. You know, I can't say I'm going for Stanford, but they are good. I got to give them the respect.
And Haley Jones, as you know, my girl who plays for Stanford, really is a multi-talented player. She's the new Larry Bird, Magic Johnson for the women's game. So, and I encourage people, if you never watch women's basketball, watch this Final Four, because you can see some really good basketball being played. Now on the men's side, you're talking about a blue blood Final Four. We didn't see many great shining moments in this March Madness. We didn't see many last minute shots where teams won, in upsets. And it really came down to these programs. And maybe this is fitting after, a couple of shaky years under COVID. I mean, you've got the potential like 3 Hall of Fame coaches in Bill Self with Kansas, Jay Wright at Villanova, and Mike Krzyzewski. And you have a rising star coach in Hubert Davis at North Carolina, who's only in his 2nd season after playing 11 seasons in the NBA. These coaches have 7 of the past 13 national titles have come from these 3 coaches. So you're talking about Duke versus North Carolina is the big game of the weekend, the nightcap, the prime time battle, and then the opener is of course with Villanova and Kansas, which is really going to be a great game too. So what are your thoughts about this Final Four, and what do you expect from it?
Well, I think this is the best Final Four I've probably watched or seen in a couple years, honestly. The one thing I'll say is I am going for North Carolina. I do think North Carolina is going to win it all. And I know Duke, like I said, they're trying to bring Coach K out with a bang. And now it's like you get to see Duke, North Carolina Part 3 in the Final Four at that too. Because I can't remember the last time that's happened. I don't think it's ever happened before. But because again, the last time they played with Coach K's last home game, North Carolina beat them. But then when they had played at Chapel Hill, Duke beat them. So, I mean, that matchup's going to be crazy. That one's definitely going to be crazy. But with the Kansas-Villanova, I have Kansas because Villanova has 2 injuries. Now, Villanova has size also. I can't remember the exact 2 players that are injured. But Kansas, they have the size, plus they have good guard play also on top of that. The national championship I would like to see is North Carolina and Kansas. That one I'd like to see because that's just a whole bunch of size. You do have guards running the floor also. That matchup would be equal. And not only that too, but you have a lot of veterans on those teams too, because most of the time North Carolina and Kansas, they do have guys come back. They're usually not a whole lot of one and dones there as opposed to like Duke and Kentucky. So that matchup would be really good.
No, I love you. You're talking from a basketball and a fan standpoint. You know me, I'm always going to root for the black coach, right? We got one black coach in this Final Four going for North Carolina. I know a lot of people will be rooting for Krzyzewski, so it'll be an interesting environment for North Carolina. They're going to be the underdog. They're going to be the villain. But there's a lot of anti-Duke folks out there too. So some folks are going to be on the fence, maybe because this is his last one. They're going to be rooting for him. But I'm still going for North Carolina. But good luck, Mike Krzyzewski. No matter what happens, you've had a great career. We'll see you in the Basketball Hall of Fame. Yeah. All right, let's go to the NFL. Lots going on. Let's start with the small thing. They changed the overtime rule for the playoffs. I mean, I've always hated the fact that when teams would battle and they get to overtime, that the rule was that the first team that scored won. I think every team should have the opportunity to at least touch the ball once. So this year there was a playoff game in which that happened, and I think the uproar was big enough to where the owner said, okay, we're going to change this. But they're only changing it for the playoffs, where I guess the stakes are higher to give every team the opportunity in overtime to do that. So what do you think of this rule change? And do you think it's something that should also be in the regular season?
I do. First of all, I'm going to start off with regular season. I do think it should be in the regular season too, because yes, the stakes are obviously higher in the playoffs, but at the same time, when you're talking about, I mean, huge, big games that are potential playoff games or that, you know, affect your seeding and stuff, I definitely believe you should have that at the same time, because you could say it's the regular season and you could say they're not must-win games. Some of those big games, you have to get those wins in order to establish something also. So I definitely believe that it should be for the regular season. Now, in terms of the playoffs, you want teams to have an equal opportunity, because again, you want both offenses to be able to have a chance to score, not just have a team that defense has to try to stop, you know what I'm saying, the opposing team. So I do think that it was necessary. And again, I know some people do disagree with the change. Some people think it should have just stayed the same. Understand that to some degree, you know, but you just have to have a fair shot for everybody. Just make it fair, especially in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, sports is about evolution. You know, almost all of these sports are rooted in tradition, but they're also rooted in change. So I like to see sports evolving, trying new things, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. They change the game significantly. Look at how the NBA has changed so much since defensive rules have changed. But you know what? You got to go with the flow. You got to evolve with talent. Hopefully this rule will manifest itself in a great way in the playoffs, and that the owners will come back next year and bring it into the regular season. Okay, Rooney, I call it Rooney 2.0, right? The Rooney rule was blown up and not really blown up, but revised this week. All of this coming in the wake of what you mentioned earlier in the blog, was that, you know, the Brian Flores lawsuit, which really shined a very harsh light on some of the BS practices that the NFL owners have been doing, trying to circumvent the rule that says that they had to interview at least one minority candidate. So now, under the new rules, every NFL team, each of the 32 teams, has to have a minority or a woman offensive coach that works closely with the head coach. And the reason they're doing this is because right now the NFL is in a trend where most head coaches are coming from the offensive coordinator side, coming from the offensive side of the ball. 20 years ago, 15 years ago, it was different. They were coming from the defensive side of the ball. And the problem is that there are so few, if any, African Americans on the offensive side as coaches, that the pool is just very small. So the NFL came out with a rule that mandated that this season, every team has to have at least a female or a minority on the offensive side of the ball, and not just at a low level, but at a side that works closely with the head coach. How they'll do that, it remains to be seen, because obviously teams already have offensive coordinators, you know, the senior person, the top person in that position. But they have to have another senior level person that is a minority, and hopefully that'll put more coaches in position to be hired while the NFL is on this trend of hiring offensive coaches. What do you think of the rules, or the rule change?
I think it's a good rule for the simple fact of, like I said, Brian Flores, and honestly, I mean, the list goes on of, you know, coaches, black head coaches that have been sabotaged, fired. Again, if you ask a black coach to lose games on purpose, well, have there been teams that have asked, you know, white coaches to do the same? And if the answer is no, again, that's a huge problem. And again, you do have to talk about stripping ownership. I know that's a hard thing to do, as you said before, but that's something that would have to be heavily discussed. But at the same time, with this new rule, this gives great opportunity. Like I said, you're talking about for black coaches, you're talking about for women, because that's one thing I do want to see also, a lot of women being able to have more coaching opportunities in the NFL, because if I'm not mistaken, there's only I think one with San Francisco. So that's one thing I want to see too. On top of that, eventually women be able to work their way up closer to becoming head coaches, or whether it's an offensive coordinator, something, you know, up there in ranking. But
it'd be interesting. I mean, you know, the implications and the ultimate effects of this lawsuit, I think we're just beginning to see them. When it first happened, and we talked about it on the show, I was surprised that he did it, because he really took himself out of position to be hired. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin, hired him in a key defensive coach position. So that's great to see them do that, to say, hey, you know, you're still part of the coaching brotherhood. And it would take a franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers, where the Rooney Rule, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the founders of this rule. That's why it's called the Rooney Rule. You knew if a franchise was going to do it, it was the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, I think we're years away from really seeing how we're able to give Brian Flores the credit he deserves for really exposing something that we all knew was kind of going on. But now the NFL is reacting to it. One of the allegations was that he was asked to lose games on purpose when he was in Jacksonville. The owners of that team have denied it. But it'll all come out during these, whether it's negotiations, whether it goes to court. But he really shed a light on some things, and I think the NFL is reacting. They also appointed a 6-member diversity committee. So the Brian Flores effect is already begun in the NFL. Give him credit for going out on a limb, risking his career to file this lawsuit. We're starting to see some change, and right now NFL teams are not going to be able to run from it because they're at the point of this becoming part of its legacy. Yeah, people are still going to come to games, people are still going to watch, but the league is right now the league that is least friendly to coaches of color, to really promoting men and women of color to leadership positions, and I don't think that's a stain that the NFL wants to have. We got one player move we want to talk about. I guess it was 2021. Trey Lance was the number 3 pick. It was a surprise pick. Where did he come from? Like North Dakota State?
South Dakota State.
South Dakota State. Like, okay, is there a North Dakota State? I don't know. Anyway, so South Dakota State, number 3 pick in the draft. He's been sitting behind Jimmy Garoppolo for a couple of years now. Seems to be rumblings that Trey Lance is going to be the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. Sooner rather than later is all we're hearing. I think it's going to be the first week of the season. They've been trying to find a team for Jimmy Garoppolo. As all these trades go, it's all about value. We're about to see another change in regime, a change in the face of this franchise with Trey Lance. Tell us about Trey Lance, and what do you think about this move? Is he ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL?
Well, he didn't get a lot of playing time nor experience last year. Of all the rookie quarterbacks last year, he played the least amount. Now, he did get in some games, but I don't think he started a game again being under Jimmy Garoppolo. So, again, they trade him. They're trying to trade him for the loss that they had in the playoffs, I think, to the Rams. My thing is, you want him to start and it's good in your mind, you're going with that, but you still don't necessarily just want to give it to him. And knowing the coaching staff there, they're not going to do that. They're going to make him compete for that as they should, because the one weakness that he has, from what I have seen, like a lot of athletic quarterbacks or black quarterbacks, is throwing the football. So you want to have a system designed for him to succeed if you want him to be a quarterback, just like Baltimore did for Lamar, and just how Philly, they run the same offense that Oklahoma ran for Jalen. So you want to have a system for him. And again, they have weapons. You have Deebo Samuels, you have the second best tight end in the league, and they have a defense also. So it's not, and they have an offensive line. So it's not like he's just going to work with nothing like, let's say, Justin Fields did too. You know what I'm saying? And again, just to have him come in year 2 from the jump, and it's like, boom, hit the ground running. You have it set up for him, which again, Kyle Shanahan, as great as an offensive-minded coach is, I don't think he's never adjusted an offense to a quarterback or any player for that matter. But I think, again, he can. We're going to see, because, again, throwing the football, it has been proven that in order to win a Super Bowl, at some point in time, a quarterback has to throw the football.
Oh, absolutely. And I think when we look at it as fans and talk about throwing the football, we tend to look at the physical part. We look at the part, how hard, how much pop does a guy's throw have? Do the throws have? Is he accurate? Is he making the wide receivers having to work too hard to get to the ball? The one thing that I like, what I've heard, is that he has put in the time in the offseason, not just on the field, but in the film room. So much of passing happens before the ball is even snapped. It's being able to look at a defense, predict what it's going to do, and then once the ball is snapped, to utilize your athleticism to give yourself more opportunities to shake that defense up, to move people around, and to have weapons that know how to react to you. All of that's like a ballet. I mean, it's not just as we grew up, everybody had a route, just do a route. You still have routes, but now you have routes as like first, second, third, and sometimes fourth option. So I'm excited to see him take his place as a starting quarterback. We've seen in the evolution of the game now that more and more quarterbacks, black, white, otherwise, are mobile quarterbacks that are having to make those kinds of decisions or having to learn how to create spaces and opportunities for themselves. I think San Francisco fans are going to be excited about seeing this. Whether it's success or not, it remains to be seen. All right, so let's go to the NBA. One of your favorite teams, certainly one of the premier franchises of the league, is the Lakers. Lakers are a disaster right now. What's going on with your Lakers? They're in the 10th seed, which is the play-in tournament. I'm still trying to figure out how all that works, but I think it's almost an embarrassment for the Lakers to be in this position, not only because they have LeBron. Obviously, they've had a lot of injuries. They brought in Russell Westbrook, which has been a disaster. You may have seen just a few days ago after a game, another Laker loss, a reporter asked Russell Westbrook if there's going to be any changes, and they had a little bit of a moment. I think they worked it out. But you look at that face. Look at that face. That man is not happy.
That's the face all season long. That face has been there.
Right, that face has been there all season. But that is not a happy man. So tell me what's up with the Lakers. Should they just shut down LeBron? Should they even be worried about getting into the play-in tournament, as it's called, which is like the B League of the playoffs? Or should they just say, you know what, let's just try to fix this, maybe starting with the coach, and just figure out what they're gonna do with Anthony Davis, who's had so many injuries?
Well, first of all, I never said the Lakers were my team. Again, liking watching them, seeing that's one thing, but saying there's a team, two different things. Never said that. But at the same time, there are many different reasons. There are many problems. Russell Westbrook is one of them. Yes, don't put it all on him though, and don't get me wrong. He's been playing horrible this season. He's had a bad year. He's not himself. He's not attacking the basket, going coast to coast. I think he's been settling for too many threes. And again, Frank Vogel, you can't put it on him. He's made a lot of mistakes at his press conference. Also, we keep saying, he's trying to be positive, saying, oh, we're going to do better this time. It's like, no, it's not. That hasn't happened. If you have a chance to make the play-in, or you're in the play-in right now, if you have a chance to get in the playoffs, though, why would you not go for that? Why would you just tank this season? So, yes, if you can have LeBron give it all he has, and again, he hasn't been able to finish game. He's been playing at a high level. We all can see that, which is part of the reason he became second all time in scoring. But for whatever reason, he's not able to finish games. And I'm going to tell you this. I don't think just him alone will get them there. So when Anthony Davis, if he does come back, because both of them are supposed to come back this weekend, they're supposed to come back tomorrow. I don't know if they play tomorrow or Saturday. They have a tough schedule, though, trying to make it too. So that's the hard part now. And it's okay. So you lost to the Pelicans. First of all, LeBron still played after he hurt his ankle, but he had, I think, 32 points or so. And then you lost, I forgot who they just lost to right after that. On top of that, you have your last game is against Denver. So you mean to tell me Anthony Davis missing these months trying to come back, and what, Dwight, you're trying to match up Jokic? No, that's not going to happen. That's just not going to happen. It's not like the bubble where you were going up against Denver in the Western Conference Finals. You had AD, you had Dwight and JaVale McGee. You don't have that, so that's definitely going to be a loss. I think they play Utah at some point too. That's going to be a loss. If they do play the Clippers again, they need to win that. But even before, they lost to them without Paul George and Kawhi. So they've been losing games that, again, you were supposed to beat the Pelicans, and then the one after that, I forgot who they played, you were supposed to win that one too. So how are you going to beat the best teams in the West? How are you going to be? I don't know who else is on this schedule. I only remember Denver is the last one. Mm-hmm. But no, you're not going to beat Phoenix if you play them again. You're not going to beat Memphis, because I think Memphis has beaten them twice. You're not going to beat Golden State. And then you're talking about, Utah, Denver, Dallas. Dallas is good. Mm-hmm. And they've lost to Minnesota also. Minnesota is 7. You've lost to them too during the year. So I'm saying it's very hard for them to do that. And then Carmelo, again, where else the blame needs to go to?
Where?
To to the front office who put this
Oh,
team.
absolutely, no question. They made they made some disastrous moves, bringing in all these geezers, right, and the talented names, many of whom will end up in the Hall of Fame. But they made a big bet on veteran players, and that bet so far is paying off. Now the team that they're battling with is the San Antonio Spurs. And I was looking at the Spurs schedule. The Spurs lost a tough one recently to the Grizzlies, just by 1 point. Had a chance. Pop drew up a great play in the inbounds pass to get a layup. It was partially blocked, but they had a chance to win that game at home. They played the Trailblazers twice. They also play the Nuggets and the Timberwolves again. They play the Warriors and the Mavericks. So they've got a tough schedule too. So there's no question that the Lakers could end up in this play-in. And you're right. You continue to play hard. You play to the wire. You don't tank the season. It's just an embarrassing place for this team to be in. I mean, they've gone from showtime to no time. And they've got to figure it.
Let me just add this real quick. Hold on. Mm-hmm. And your friend Charles Barkley said this from last year up until now. In order, when they lost to Phoenix in the first round last year, if they were ever going to be good again, that was going to be on Anthony Davis. It was going to be if Anthony Davis was the best player on the team, if he was one of the top 5 players in the game, with Giannis, with KD, with Joel Embiid. All of these injuries that he had, and again, he's either turning 29 or he is 29 years old. And I understand, there are certain players that just go through their injuries throughout their career, but he's not, like he said, he's not that old though. If he keep getting injured, it's like you come back and then you hurt your ankle. He's not living up to his part of the bargain though. He's not doing that. Yes, y'all won the championship again in the bubble, so that's going to be some speculation taken away from y'all at that.
Put an asterisk on that one. The
bubble. Yeah. But other than that, y'all trying to win multiple championships. He had to be the best player because LeBron playing at a high level again, but it's not on him anymore at this point in his career.
Absolutely. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting end of the season. These teams are trying to play in to get into this playoff format where then they'll have an opportunity to play either the number 1 or number 2 seed. So exciting last week of the season. I think that's why they created the play-in, to just give some of these teams an opportunity to be in, because otherwise the Lakers and the Spurs, 2 very fine, respectable, historic franchises, have the opportunity to be in the playoffs. So great week coming up of stuff. A lot to look forward to, a lot to watch, a lot to pay attention to. And as always, looking at it not just from the sports standpoint, but from life, how it's impacting people, how it's impacting history. So all these things are evolving. It's always great to have this conversation with you. The last thing we wanted to touch on was Zion Williamson. I mean, here's a player who still has the opportunity to be the best player of his generation, has missed pretty much the entire season with an injury. Now we got some footage this week of him practicing and dunking. He's finally got the go-ahead to go one-on-one in practice. We're hearing that he may join the Pelicans on the road. Not that he will play. He's not going to play this season. But that's really going to be the key off-season thing to watch, is what happens with Zion. Maybe he's going on the road just to assess his chemistry with his teammates, to see who his team is, and to make some decisions about whether he should stay. I think he should stay. I think that they deserve an opportunity to have him for an entire season healthy, and that he should afford them that opportunity. I know players like to go where they want to go, but I think it would be a mistake for him to leave this franchise at this juncture. What about you?
I agree with you on that. I do think he should stay because, again, you missed an entire season. This is your 3rd year, right after you were an all-star last year in your 2nd year. You haven't reached your full potential, or at least gone all the way as far as you could with this team. This is only your 3rd year. I don't think you can talk about leaving just yet. As much as you might want to play in the Garden, I get that. You know what I'm saying? And it would be great, again, if he's in shape and healthy for the Knicks to acquire him. But I don't think you should be focused on that just yet. I think you still have things you need to do with this franchise who drafted you number 1 overall at that. You're young. You shouldn't be missing an entire season. It's not like you miss 6 to 8 weeks or 2 months. You miss an entire season because of your weight gain. And again, he has lost weight, which is good too. Hopefully this is a big lesson for him to learn, because again, you should not be getting hurt this young. You are a big guy at that. Again, it's great that you love to eat. There's nothing wrong with I like to eat myself. I love food too. But again, your weight gain, you could clearly see that there's no way you gain that much weight. Even if it was a situation where he worked out and just ate whatever after that, there's no way you were exercising during the off season with that weight gain. You weren't lifting, you weren't running, you weren't shooting, you weren't playing any pickup games. So again, learn from that. Have a diet during the off season, at least 4 or 5 days a week, and just stay in the gym.
And most people don't know about your culinary skills. They don't know, what a good cook you are, that you went through culinary school, that you still cook. So Zion, if you need somebody to help you with your meals, you got Chef Edwyn right here. So you can call him up and bring him down to help you get some healthy, strong meals that'll help you be in the best shape of your career. I just want to let folks know that we got 2 chefs in the room here. You're one trained on your side and one who just kind of learned on the way up. So yeah, we love food, and one of these days we have to just talk about food and sports and life, because that's another passion for ours. Edwyn, always great to share this with you. Love having these discussions and these opportunities. It's going to be an exciting week, exciting weekend. Thank everybody for watching, for joining us, and until next time, keep balling. Take it easy.